From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Greetings, Darker Things enthusiasts. Welcome back to another riveting exploration into the shadows of history. Today we're diving deep into a saga that continues to intrigue and haunt us. The enigma surrounding JFK's assassination. Unravel a web of conspiracy, power plays, and the lingering mysteries that have kept us on the edge of our seats. Get ready for a journey through the murky conditions of history, where shadows dance with secrets and the past holds untold truths. If you're ready to embark on this journey and this chilling adventure, then hit that subscribe button, buckle up, and let's uncover darker things lurking in the shadows of JFK's legacy. I'm Doug Duncan, and this is Darker Things. Who shot JFK? Step into the shadows of history where the chilling echoes of John F. Kennedy's assassination still linger. Picture this, a world transformed by a single fatal shot. Who held the trigger that silenced the voice forever of the president? What sinister motives lurked in the shadows, making him the target of such a dark plot? Kennedy, a man in pursuit of peace, sought detente with both Cubans and Russians. Yet his aspirations for a harmonious world came crashing down in a swirl of conspiracy. Join us on a journey through one of history's enigmatic puzzles, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Uncover the layers of the ultimate conspiracy that shrouds this haunting chapter in our past. Conspiracies, my friend, have woven their dark threads through the tapestry of time. Take a stroll down the twisted alleyways of history, and you'll discover that skepticism towards authority isn't a new fad, it's a timeless dance. The notion that conspiracies are a recent phenomenon is just a smokescreen. In the shadows of the past, whispers of deception have always lingered. People have known they were being played, but often they had no choice but to play along. The age-old question echoes, what else do you do when the puppet strings are in hands unseen? Now picture this. Take a stroll back to the Roman times, and guess what? You'll stumble upon some juicy, surprisingly contemporary notions about conspiracy. Plots, assassination attempts, all the juicy stuff. They had it too. Now back then, just like today, folks knew the big shots at the summit weren't exactly rooting for their well-being. Yet you had to nod along with their narratives and play the game, even if deep down you didn't buy a word of it. I'll fast forward to the present, and sure, the text fancier, the means of spreading conspiracies are slicker, but at its core, the essence remains unchanged. We're still side-eyeing authority like seasoned skeptics. Let's face it, we've got this lingering doubt that the big shots up there aren't exactly working in our favor. It's a game of self-interest at the top and not some altruistic mission for the greater good. Yet every now and then, someone dares to challenge the status quo and, well, they might just end up gone. Cue the birth of a fresh batch of conspiracy theories. Conspiracies, my friend, have become a global obsession. From UFOs to the mysterious New World Order, citizens everywhere are digging deep, asking the gritty questions as they navigate the murky waters of the world's darkest secrets. But it was the seismic shock of President Kennedy's 1963 assassination that lit the fuse. The case that sparked a wildfire of questioning minds, forever wondering what truly went down on that fateful day. The haunting tale of John F. Kennedy's assassination lingers, casting a shadow over time because, let's face it, the world took a sharp turn that day. Despite the years that have slipped away, there's this quiet hope that it'll just become a fading echo in history, a distant worry we can finally put to rest. But if you dare to peer through the lens of a broader conspiracy, it's a chilling revelation. It suggests that back in the day, it wasn't merely one lone gunman pulling a trigger. No, it paints a sinister picture of powers that were ready to erase a leader through the darkest means. Murder. Their echoes of revelation still sent shivers down the spine. So here's the unsettling reality. Whoever pulled the strings in Kennedy's assassination left an indelible mark on the course of history. Sure, those puppet masters might have shuffled off this mortal coil by now, but the entities they represented, the dark powers they fronted, they're still very much in the game. Now that's a cause for concern. It means our world has long been a playground for those willing to spill blood to get what they crave. They thrive on muddying the waters, ensuring we can never quite pin them down. Well, why does it matter? Well, let's ponder this. Commit a crime, get away with it, and suddenly it's a green light for more mischief. The crimes escalate, the consequences grow graver for all of us, and inevitably, the conspiracy theories balloon. But sometimes, just sometimes, those theories are more justified than we would like to admit. Dallas, Texas, November 22nd, 1963, is one of those just sometimes. The stage was set, and everything unraveled. Kennedy, riding the waves of immense popularity, made his grand entrance on Air Force One at 11:30 a.m. Main Street teemed with crowds eager for just a fleeting glimpse of their adored president. A little did they know the dark twist awaited Kennedy's motorcade as it veered off Main Street and into Dealey Plaza, where a sniper's bullet brought him down. Now the chilling question lingers in the air. Who orchestrated this harrowing assassination? Whose hand dared to pull that trigger, forever altering the course of history? Yes, November 22nd, 1963, the day that started like any other, with a seemingly normal event that would soon morph into a nightmare. A parade, the president cruising in an open-top car through Texas. And picture it, a wonderful scene in Dallas. People lining the streets eager to catch a glimpse of Kennedy. Yet in the shadows, a dark plot unfolded. According to the official tale, one man, Lee Harvey Oswald, harbored a grudge against the president, a man with Marxist leanings, resentment bubbling beneath the surface, blaming Kennedy for the Cuban affair. Armed with a gun, Oswald positioned himself in the Texas schoolbook repository, waiting for the perfect moment as the president motorcade rolled by. He pulled the trigger, altering the course of history. Soon after, he was apprehended. A trail of chaos left behind, including the murder of Officer J.D. Tippit. Case closed, they said. Oswald, the lone perpetrator, was behind bars. Witnesses near the Texas School Book Depository confirmed it. Yet questions linger like a haunting specter. Why would an American citizen turn on his president? What murky depths of motivation led Oswald into this dark world of political violence? The shadows cast by that fateful day hold secrets that still refuse to be fully revealed. Now let's peel back the layers of Oswald's past. A United States Marine, Semper Fi. Not exactly a model one, mind you, with a couple of court-martials under his belt. Accidentally shooting himself in the elbow. A little mishap in the grand scheme of things. But guns? Oh, he had a fondness for them. But the Marine life didn't quite cut it for him. So off he goes to the Soviet Union, waving goodbye to Uncle Sam as a defector. Or so they say. The narrative we're fed is that of a defector, but the whispers in the shadows tell a different tale. Many believe he was a double agent, that the defection was a mere setup, a pawn in a twisted game, possibly dancing to the CIA's tune. Yet back in the USSR, life wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Oswald and his wife Marina. Eventually the Soviet dream soured, and they returned to the United States. Here's where the plot thickens. Oswald, now back on American soil, starts raising eyebrows with his newfound concern for Cuba. Leaflets hit the streets. His discontent about how the Cubans were being treated echoed through the air. Kennedy's failed attempt to invade Cuba, the Bay of Pigs fiasco, they say, was a mess. The CIA-trained Cuban exiles left high and dry, no air cover, and quickly falling into the hands of the enemy. A dark chapter in the covert world where the lines between allegiance and betrayal blur. So here's where Oswald's simmering discontent takes a dark turn. He's nursing a grudge against Kennedy, and not just because of the Bay of Pigs mess. There's more to it. Maybe some communist leanings, or as Oswald put it, Marxist leanings. The nuances might be lost on some, but in the public mind, it all gets tangled up. Kennedy, a symbol of everything Oswald opposed, is a target painted on his back. Officially, the tale goes that Oswald just wanted to bring down this towering figure, and so began the sinister plot. Yet as the shadows deepen, questions claw their way to the surface. Could Oswald have even made it to the 6th floor of the Texas Gold Depository before 12:30 on that fateful November 22nd? Let's look at the timeline. We know he was in the building, sipping coke happily around 12:15. Now the assassination was set for 12:30, but here's the twist. The parade was expected to roll by at 12:15. Now, unless someone tipped Oswald off about the delay, because, they were popular politicians and they chatted more than anticipated, you would think he would be in position by 12:15, not casually sipping a Coke while strolling around. Pieces of this dark puzzle don't quite fit neatly into the narrative we've been handed. Picture this. Chilling aftermath, shots ring out. Kennedy falls, and what does Oswald do? Not the expected mad dash to escape the building. Well, some argue he was merely a decoy, a pawn in a sinister game, perhaps firing no shots at all. Convenient fall guy waiting to be discovered and shouldering the blame. Others paint a different picture, that the original plan was to swiftly silence Oswald. Yet the bizarre twist is that he doesn't make a move to flee. Instead, he's spotted, cool as a cucumber, sipping a drink. An officer enters the scene, the building now under scrutiny. Confrontation looms, but a colleague vouches for Oswald and dismisses him as just another employee. And just like that, Oswald slips away from the scene. Here's where it gets stranger. Oswald heads home, then ventures out onto the streets. Meanwhile, a description of the supposed killer circulates among the police. Why did they suddenly hone in on Oswald remains shrouded in mystery. But that's the tale that echoed through the darkened streets. A man on the run, accused of the unthinkable. The web of intrigue thickens, and the answers remain elusive. The twisted tale continues as police officer Tippett spots Oswald from his patrol car and beckons him over. Oswald steps out, seemingly ready to face the questions, but what unfolds next is shrouded in uncertainty. The official narrative claims Oswald abruptly shot Tippett at point-blank range and fled into the shadows. Yet the darkness deepens with conflicting accounts. Some witnesses swear that there were 2 men involved, with whispers that Oswald might not have been one of them. A murky haze surrounds the identity of the shooter. Was it really Oswald, or just someone who bore a chilling resemblance? Regardless, the deed is done. Oswald bolts, navigating the sinister alleys of escape until he finds refuge in a cinema. Inside, the plot thickens. Someone spots him and the police descend, surrounding the cinema like a trap. As they storm in, the film halts, and there sits Oswald. An interesting twist surfaces. Oswald seems to have had a premonition, a suspicion that the police might be keen on swift retribution. In a desperate bid to shield himself, he cries out in the cinema, "I am not resisting arrest! I am not resisting arrest!" The words echo loudly, a shield against any hasty triggering fingers. A calculated move, ensuring that even in the darkness of that cinema, his fate would be sealed right then and there. Now the shadows play witness to a dense survival in the midst of an unfolding tragedy. The doubts cast a long, twisted shadow over whether Oswald was truly the mastermind, the main gunman orchestrating it all. Even if he did unleash some of the shots, there's an undeniable feeling that a deeper, darker story lies beneath the surface. Despite the minute-by-minute narrative unraveling with an eerie inconsistency, Oswald found himself in the clutches of the Dallas, Texas Police Department. The nation, it seemed, reluctantly embraced the notion that Oswald was the puppeteer behind the assassination. Justice served. However, the 24th of November brought a macabre twist to this already grim tale. Oswald, charged with 2 murders, was to meet his fate at the hands of an unlikely executor, an everyday citizen, Jack Ruby, if you want to call a mobster an everyday citizen. A gunshot echoes, Captain Prince falls, Oswald is hit. Absolute panic descends in the basement of the Dallas Police Department. The live television broadcast to the world captures the chaos, the sudden violent end, adding yet another layer to the enigma of the assassination, birthing a fresh wave of haunting questions. The darkness deepens and the mysteries multiply. Enter Jack Ruby, a man entrenched in the shadowy world of a strip club, mob connections weaving through the sleaze of his nightclub. Oswald, the perpetrator of a nation's shock, found himself at the mercy of this nightclub owner's vengeance. Ruby, they said, was so incensed by Oswald's deeds that he seized the moment in the dimly lit recesses of the police station, taking aim at Oswald's abdomen at point-blank range. The tailspin was one of personal motivation, a lone avenger striking on behalf of the outraged American people. But the narrative unfolded and a chilling question emerged. Was this an act of a personal vendetta? Or did Ruby play a darker role, silencing Oswald to keep certain truths from emerging? As the layers peeled away, it became evident that Ruby wielded considerable influence in the community. Connections paved his way to the heart of the police station where the average citizen couldn't tread. Yet the plot thickened further when Ruby, now behind bars, started to speak. Did someone promise him a hero's welcome, wealth, and the chance to pen his own story? In the harsh reality of captivity, it became apparent that those promises might never materialize. Ruby, in a now famous jailhouse press conference, began dropping hints that echoed of a broader conspiracy to assassinate Kennedy, insinuating that he held more secrets than he was willing to spill. The darkness in Ruby's revelations hinted at a labyrinth of deception surrounding one of history's darkest moments. Ruby, a man walking the edge of wellness, haunted not only by cancer, but by a lurking paranoia that they, whoever they were, sought to poison him and end his existence. The shadows closed in as if it was scripted by fate. He met his demise within the unforgiving walls of the police cell. His final act? A tragic curtain call, transpired before the grim stage of the second trial could even be set. The narrative of Ruby's life took a dark turn, marked by illness, suspicion, and an untimely end in the cold confines of captivity. The threads of truth seemed to slip away as Ruby, player in this dark drama was snatched away. What secrets, what revelations that could have surfaced in the second trial vanished with Jack Ruby? The self-proclaimed Avenger painted his act as an emotional, patriotic response, a punishment for plunging the nation into a dark abyss. Yet the lingering question hung heavy. Was this just another deceit served to the citizens? Was there a twisted connection between Ruby, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the chilling assassination of John F. Kennedy? Enter Rose Sharami, a figure entangled in the sordid world of the strip club, a heroin addict with a life spiraling into despair. Intriguingly, Rose had crossed paths with the police a few days before Kennedy's shooting. In her disheveled rambling, she claimed awareness of a plot to kill Kennedy, one where Ruby and Oswald were collaborators. A shocking twist emerged. She believed they may have even shared a sinister, intimate relationship. Her shattered words also hinted at others, shadowy figures from the intelligence services lurking in the periphery. The canvas painted by Rose Sharami unveiled a different masterpiece, one where deception, alliances, and dark desires wove a chilling tapestry. Now, if Ruby and Oswald were familiar faces in each other's worlds, it hints at a sinister alliance, a partnership embedded in the plot to assassinate Kennedy. Ruby's fatal strike against Oswald then takes on a more ominous role, silencing a key player who might have testified. The web of deception thickens, unveiling a labyrinth of dark connections. But the strangest doesn't stop there. Shortly after this revelation, as Ruby began unveiling his cryptic statements, Rose Sharami met a tragic end. Found dead, they say. Struck by a car. Abandoned by the side of a desolate road. And so the macabre dance begins. The first notes of a haunting symphony. Witnesses, one by one, succumbing to bizarre fates. Those connected to the Kennedy shooting who glimpsed the untold on that fateful day, while many believe there's a grim program in play, a sinister scheme to erase the key witnesses from the stage, leaving a chilling trail of untimely deaths that paints a disturbing picture of calculated elimination. The shadows grow longer, and the truth becomes ever more elusive. As you delve deeper into the layers of this dark narrative, the shadows grow thicker, and the conspiracy theories more intricate, seem to spiral down a rabbit hole of complexity, perhaps justifiably so. In the span of a single week, Dallas bore witness to the haunting trilogy of murders: John F. Kennedy, Officer J.D. Tippit, and Lee Harvey Oswald. Jack Ruby, ensnared in the web, found himself behind bars, handed a life sentence. Yet amidst the aftermath, Lee Harvey Oswald remained the designated culprit, the supposed puppet master behind the assassination. Now rewind to the fateful day when Kennedy fell. The first bullet pierces through him, navigating a twisted path, exiting his neck, grazing through the Texas Governor John Connolly's arm, and finally lodging itself in his leg. A single bullet, multiple wounds. Questions loom like dark clouds. How could one bullet create such havoc without shattering? Was it truly a lone shot? And then the skepticism deepens. Could Oswald, from the distance, hit Kennedy with his rifle? Have accurately struck the president? The mechanics of it all beg scrutiny, unraveling a cryptic puzzle that refuses to yield its secrets. The rabbit hole, it seems, descends into a labyrinth where truth and shadows entwine, leaving a city haunted by the echoes of that week. Picture Oswald perched on the ominous 6th floor of the book depository building, an unwavering eye on the approaching president's limousine. The limo almost audaciously parked right under Oswald's window, inviting a sinister possibility. Oswald with his rifle poised to plunge into darkness. The moment hangs in the air. Would he drop the rifle, choosing the trajectory of fate for those in the limousine? But no. Oswald plays out a macabre waiting game. The limo inches away, gaining speed, distancing itself from the looming threat. And only then does Oswald unleash the first shot, a bullet finding its mark in the president's back, leaving behind a trail of holes, a chilling tableau etched in history. The bullet exits from Kennedy's throat, leaving a haunting testament to the brutality of that moment. Amidst this macabre dance, a passionate amateur filmmaker, Abraham Zapruder, stands on a heel armed with an 8mm camera. His lens captures the full horror of the assassination. The film, a silent witness, exposes a crucial detail in the officials seem keen to dismiss: the angle of Kennedy's body as it crumpled after the fatal shot to the head. Witnesses on that day echo what the film reveals. Gunshots from the right-hand side of Kennedy's motorcade, a discordant symphony of violence. The shadows lengthen, and the details emerge, painting a dark masterpiece of a nation forever scarred by that day. As you dissect the trajectory of the shots that pierce the president, a disquieting doubt emerges. Hard to fathom that all these shots hailed from the proclaimed behind. The official narrative spins a tale of Oswald waiting, lurking, firing from the shadows as the cars pass by. But the film, a silent witness to history, tells a different story, paints a different picture. In that final shot, the president reels. One bullet misses. Another navigates through Kennedy's back, neck, carving a dark path through John Connolly. The crescendo of horror reaches its peak as the last shot obliterates the president's head. A ghastly explosion, frozen in time. Yet the recoil, the movement that Kennedy makes, hints at a narrative not aligned with shots from behind. Enter the autopsy, a pivotal piece in the puzzle. The final verdict, a shot solely from behind, echoes through history. But the doubt lingers, clinging to the autopsy photographs like shadows in the dark. Whispers speak of tampering, a body altered between Parkland Hospital and the autopsy site to mask the truth. The exit wound on Kennedy's neck raises its own macabre questions. Was it an exit? Or a bullet returning from the front? Skeptics suggest wounds redressed to weave a narrative where the shots came from the opposite direction. And as you question the very photographs depicting Kennedy's head, a chilling notion creeps in. Did they manipulate the images to fit a narrative of shots from behind? Now, the moment you entertain the possibility that a shot might have come from the front, a sinister revelation unfurls. Other gunmen lurking in the shadows, rewriting the history of that dark day. The doubts multiply, and the conspiracy takes on a life of its own. The grassy knoll, now etched in infamy, a haunting question of echoes. Could it have been the clandestine stage for a fatal shot that altered history? Despite the Warren Commission's adamant stance on a lone gunman, witnesses persistently attest to the presence of suspicious figures on that fateful day on the grassy knoll. But who were they? Could these enigmatic individuals harbor sinister connection to President Kennedy's demise? The theory lingers: more than one gunman, a narrative woven not just from the film's frames, but from the chilling accounts of that day. The grassy knoll, a patch of green with seated or standing figures, became a theater of whispers. Some claim they heard shots emanating from beyond the fence. Attempts were made to testify of this to the Warren Commission, an investigation widely criticized as a whitewash. Interestingly, the commission laid down a condition. Only those witnesses whose accounts aligned with a lone gunman theory would be considered. A glaring red flag, a tactic that immediately raises suspicion. Those who believed the shots came from over the fence found their voices silenced, their testimonies relegated to obscurity. Enter the peculiar tales. A man with an umbrella standing in an odd manner. Speculation arises. Did he unleash one of the shots? Was there a concealed weapon masquerading as part of that seemingly innocent umbrella? It delves into the realms of espionage, a narrative straight out of James Bond. But history has shown that such cloak and dagger tales aren't confined to fiction. The shadows on the grassy knoll harbor secrets, and the whispers grow darker. Enter the enigmatic figures, the strange tramps. 3 men cloaked in tramp attire, with one seeming a shade too polished. Lurking near the fence where whispers of shooters emerged, they cast a shadow on the sinister tableau. Later identified, some insisted they were mere tramps, while others whispered of their potential ties to the Central Intelligence Agency. The ambiguity fuels yet another theory. What kind of tramps hide beneath disheveled attire? Were they the ones pulling triggers? The cast of characters expands, each with a claim to the ominous day. Some, in hindsight, boldly assert their participation in the gunfire. Then, there's the ominous duo of E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis. Hunt, rumored to be one of the tramps, and both Sturgis would later become infamous as the Watergate burglars. Now, the Watergate saga unfolds with a twist. Political espionage turns to a quest for incriminating photographs, allegedly depicting CIA operatives in compromising positions at Dealey Plaza, including the grassy knoll. Whispers suggest Hunt himself might have been one of the shooters, weaving a labyrinth of intrigue. Dealey's Plaza cast becomes a canvas for scrutiny. An industry emerges, dissecting their actions post-assassination, probing their claims. The narrative deepens, the fascination intensifies, and this web of shadows, the conviction grows. A minimum triangular crossfire orchestrated the tragedy. A chilling standard trained to ensure a target's demise, likely involving a minimum of 3 weapons fired. The layers of deception thicken, and the truth remains elusive in the labyrinth of whispers and shadows. Now, the theories delve beyond far the figures of the grassy knoll. In the ominous year of 1963, a film titled 7 Days of May was unfolding its narrative. A chilling tale spun around a military coup, a plot to seize control of the President of the United States. The script, eerily resonant with the events that unfolded in reality, wove a dark tapestry of power, betrayal, and a nation teetering on the edge. Delving into the twisted narrative of Kennedy's demise, Oswald's peculiar superstitions seem but a footnote in the macabre symphony of theories. The shadows lengthen, the question looms. If Oswald wasn't the puppeteer pulling the strings of the tragedy, then who orchestrated the malevolent show? And what drove their sinister motives? As theories sprout like venomous weeds, the gaze turns inward, piercing the heart of power, the Oval Office. Whispers weave a tale of a coup, fingers pointing not at a lone gunman, but a formidable force within the president's inner circle. The spotlight shifts to Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy's trusted right hand. In this theater of shadows, the plot thickens, and the once secure corridors of power echo with the haunting question: Who truly held the strings of the puppeteer? Lyndon B. Johnson, a name etched in presidential history, yet veiled in the shadows of conspiracy, as he stepped into the spotlight left vacant by Kennedy's tragic exit. Johnson, it seemed, was eager to shed the haunting legacy of his predecessor, ascending to the position he coveted, and he wasted no time distancing himself from the Kennedy era. Swiftly and decisively, Johnson unraveled the threads of Kennedy's policies. Vietnam, a contentious stage, witnessed a dark turn. While Kennedy had toyed with the idea of withdrawing U.S. forces, sensing the futility of the conflict, Johnson harbored a different stance. With Kennedy gone, Johnson not only rejected withdrawal, but orchestrated a surge that set the stage for a nightmarish chapter in Vietnam's history, a chapter painted in the hues of horror and despair. The presidency had changed hands, and with it, the trajectory of a nation lurched into an ominous direction. In the murky realm of political intrigue, Lyndon B. Johnson's name weaves a sinister tapestry. His alleged mistress, Madeline Brown, whispers dark secrets of Johnson's complicity in a plot to snuff out Kennedy's flame. Skepticism surrounds her revelation, but the mere utterance sends shivers down curious spines. Johnson's past, stained with accusations of corruption, finds itself under the glaring spotlight. Detractors paint a portrait of a man entangled in sordid affairs long before his vice presidency. A man accused of orchestrating murders through the notorious hitman Mac Wallace. Some claim Wallace to be an extra hand, a gunman lurking in the shadows alongside Oswald. As the years unravel, the tendrils of suspicion intertwine with Johnson's ascent to power. Kennedy, unaware of the looming threat, may not have envisioned Johnson as an assailant, but the discomfort etched on Johnson's face in films alongside Kennedy and Robert Kennedy paints a silent narrative, a narrative of discontent, ambition, and the coveted ascent to the presidency. Benefiting from Kennedy's abrupt removal, Johnson's trajectory to power becomes a dark puzzle piece in the grand conspiracy. The whispers echo a high-level conspiracy where power and malevolence dance hand in hand. If the shadows stretched far enough to implicate Johnson in the chilling demise of America's chief, then the narrative plunged into darkness beyond common perception. Conspiracy theorists, unsatisfied with a solitary villain, cast their gaze onto the clandestine corridors of the CIA and the FBI, unraveling a web of intrigue. Their theory wove a tale of President Kennedy as a threat to the entrenched establishment, a harbinger of change from within. In the murky waters of government enmity, Kennedy found himself swimming against a tide of animosity, even within his own ranks. The sentiment echoed. He had amassed more enemies within the government's clandestine chambers than from external adversaries, be they Russians or Cubans or otherwise. Kennedy's ambitious agenda, a liberal force challenging the status quo, had sown seeds of discontent. His actions, perceived by some as misguided, triggered resistance from those he sought to strip of power. One striking move was his executive order aiming to curtail the powers of the Federal Reserve, a powerful, albeit contentious entity, often viewed as a shadowy force within the banking system of America. In this labyrinth of political maneuvering, Kennedy's quest to reclaim power from the clutches of a potentially corrupt Federal Reserve stirred animosity among the banking elite. The ripple effect of his intentions cascaded into a pool of adversaries, making enemies amongst those who held the strings of financial influence. In the chess game of power, Kennedy's gambit to strengthen the United States Treasury invoked the ire of formidable opponents, creating a stage where enemies within the shadows plotted against the president's vision for change. In the intricate dance of power, Kennedy found himself drawing the ire of formidable adversaries, not just among the political echelons, but also within the elusive corridors of the military-industrial complex. While he had initially supported the war machinery in Vietnam, the president's evolving perspective led him to reassess the trajectory of conflict. War, a lucrative industry, turned out profits for those in the shadows, and a peace-nick president posed a threat to this lucrative venture. Kennedy's skepticism extended beyond the battlefield. He wasn't content with the vast powers wielded by the CIA. In the realm of conspiracy theories, the Central Intelligence Agency emerges as a shadowy force, its influence reaching far and wide. Kennedy's vocal stance against their omnipotence made him a target for fractions within the agency, wary of losing control. Amidst the intelligent landscape, where the Secret Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigation held sway, J. Edgar Hoover's disdain for Kennedy added another layer of complexity. Some fingers pointed at the FBI's potential involvement, but in the labyrinth of possibilities, the common thread was Kennedy's refusal to conform. As he stood against the backdrop of the global elite, perhaps an unexpected departure from the path of his father that Joseph Kennedy envisioned, Kennedy became an outlier. His deviation from the expected script, a pivot away from supporting the establishment, might well have triggered a collective decision among powerful figures. Enough's enough! Let this president go! The shadowy forces entwined in the tapestry of power began to cast their ominous influence on a president who dared to challenge the game. The chilling contours of a conspiracy gained depth when examining the pivotal moments of 1962. President Kennedy's audacious endeavor to advocate for nuclear disarmament after the Cuban Missile Crisis became a thorn in the side of military brass and influential corporate entities. The Cuban Missile Crisis, an episode etched in the annals of anxiety, unfolded when the revelation struck that the Soviets had strategically positioned missiles in Cuba, uncomfortably close to American shores. Kennedy, navigating the treacherous waters of potential nuclear conflict, faced critical decisions. Bomb the missile sites? Issue threats to the Soviets? The delicate balance of power teetered on the brink. In a gambit that averted a cataclysmic outcome, Kennedy declared a quarantine on Cuba, signaling a dire consequence for any attempted missile influx. The tension culminated in the boarding of a Soviet ship, an emblematic standoff. A reluctant detente emerged as Soviet President Nikita Khrushchev, perhaps sensing the precipice of peril, opted for de-escalation. A pact materialized, removal of missiles from Cuba in exchange for Kennedy's vow not to invade Cuba. Yet amid the echoes of peace, murmurs of betrayal lingered. Some contended that Kennedy had sacrificed principles for pragmatism, fostering a narrative of a sellout in the hollowed halls of conspiracy. In the murky shadows of geopolitical intrigue, a haunting notion creeps in. The idea that Castro, astute and calculating, perceived Kennedy's pursuit of a detente as a threat. Kennedy, harboring aspirations for peace, especially post the harrowing Cuban Missile Crisis, found himself entangled in a web of diplomatic intricacies. A theory seemingly relegated to obscurity pulsates with an unsettling narrative, a narrative that positions Fidel Castro, the Cuban leader, as the orchestrator of a macabre symphony. According to this theory, it wasn't a lone gunman or a covert cabal. Instead, the tendrils of conspiracy extended to the heart of communist power. Castro and the Soviet state, implicated as the clandestine architects, allegedly wove the dark tapestry that enshrouded the assassination of Kennedy. In the shadows of the Cuban landscape, Fidel Castro stood as the enigmatic architect of a communist stronghold, uncomfortably close to American shores. Emerging from the eerie aftermath of the McCarthy era, where any whiff of communism marked a descent into career oblivion, Castro's Cuba loomed as a perceived threat to many Americans. Prior to Kennedy taking office, President Eisenhower had laid the groundwork for the invasion of Cuba, a plan Kennedy inherited. However, Kennedy's uneasy stance on the Bay of Pigs invasion, marked by a lack of full-throttle support, led to its failure. For Cubans, it was an invasion, a harrowing echo of hostility. Kennedy's wavering commitment might have sowed seeds of resentment among certain factions. In the Cuban narrative, a thirst for revenge against Kennedy burgeoned. Oswald, the alleged sympathizer for the Cuban cause, became a shadowy figure in this clandestine dance of ideologies and vendettas. Oswald, the mysterious figure in this dark tale, was purportedly aligned with Cuban sympathies. However, amidst the web of conspiracy, whispers suggest a duality, a double agent, possibly anti-Cuba. The murky arguments persist, entangling Oswald further in the shadows. Cuba, a central player in this clandestine drama, emerged as a prominent theme. The era was marked by an intense aversion to communist ethos, a perceived colossal adversary. Notably, blaming the communists for Kennedy's assassination could have been a trigger for conflict against the Soviet Union, a move with potential cataclysmic nuclear consequences. Yet the aftermath of the Cuban Missile Crisis loomed large. The genuine fear of nuclear escalation curtailed any inclination to point fingers at Cuba or the Soviet Union. In a delicate dance, the specter of nuclear war restrained accusations, revealing an unexpected caution among the orchestrators of power. Now for those in the military-industrial complex, making money was a priority, but obliterating the world was a detrimental business plan. Thus, the communist angle, though seemingly convenient to blame, was subdued amid concerns that it could ignite an international nuclear conflagration. The lingering echoes of President Kennedy's demise cast shadows over various conspiratorial narratives. Was it the sinister machinations of the Soviet state? The clandestine maneuvers of the American establishment? Or the solitary figure of Lee Harvey Oswald, perched within the ominous Texas School Book Depository? As the haunting specter of 1968 unfolded, a series of harrowing public events intensified the intrigue surrounding the Kennedy conspiracy. These unsettling occurrences propelled the citizens worldwide into a tumult of questioning, delving into the cryptic depths of who or what truly orchestrated the demise of Kennedy. The veil of uncertainty loomed, inviting a disconcerting journey into the heart of a darkened enigma. Even the president's brother would be struck down. In the grim tapestry of history, Robert Kennedy met his demise in the dimly lit corridors of a Los Angeles hotel in 1968. The scene unfolded in a kitchen bustling with people, a sinister stage where the line between blame and ambiguity blurred. Sirhan Sirhan stands accused, positioned in front of Robert Kennedy, yet the wounds on the head suggest a malevolent force from behind, leaving the truth veiled in uncertainty, perhaps both a macabre orchestration. Why extinguish Robert Kennedy's life? His announcement to pursue the presidency echoed through the air, a declaration that could revive the liberal ethos of the Kennedys. And for those who orchestrated Kennedy's earlier demise, This was an intolerable threat. The prospect of a new Kennedy dynasty with its echoes of liberal policies became a target ripe for eradication. Simultaneously, the period witnessed the assertion that there was more going on than meets the eye when it came to civil rights. Entered the assassination of Martin Luther King, a transformative figure in civil society. Racial discrimination loomed large, and Kennedy, initially hesitant, joined the civil rights movement. The elimination of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King served the interests of those threatened by societal change. In the realm of conspiracy, theorists posit that King's assassin was a mere pawn in a broader clandestine scheme. A single trigger pulled, but the orchestration behind the scenes remained shrouded in the complex shadows of clandestine machinations. The sinister web expands, entwining those who will power and manipulate the strings in the pursuit of their malevolent designs. In the bleak tapestry of 1978, the yearning Americans wanted to unravel the enigma surrounding John F. Kennedy's fateful day in 1963 reached a fevered pitch. Desperation echoed through the corridors of the nation as a plea for the truth manifested in the form of another iteration of the Warren Report, birthed by the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Alas, this second investigation proved to be a bitter disappointment, a cryptic tome that left the lingering questions and theories untouched, hanging like shadows in the collective consciousness. The landscape shifted ominously after the ruthless demise of Robert Kennedy, casting a pall of suspicion over the historical canvas. The mid-1970s, steeped in the aftermath of Watergate's revelation that even the president could not be trusted, prompted a retrospective gaze. Kennedy's assassination, always a disconcerting specter, found no solace in the public gut. The clamor for truth crescendoed, leading to the birth of a 1979 paper from the House Select Committee on Assassinations. A glimpse behind the curtain revealed tantalizing discoveries, yet the looming specter of a rush to conclusions haunted the investigation. Hindered by insufficient funding, the report reluctantly acknowledged the probability, cautiously using the word probably, of a broader conspiracy. It nodded to the presence of more than one gunman, dangling the insinuation of a mob or mafia involvement, an unsettling narrative left hanging in the air. Surveying public sentiment, the prevailing gut feeling leaned towards a consensus, a pervasive belief in a larger conspiracy. However, as time wove its tapestry and society molded into a more conformist mold, the majority holding fast to the conviction of a mass conspiracy began to erode. Linked to the past weekend, memories faded, and the society nudged towards conformity, seemingly trusting authority more. A disquieting trend for those advocating for the scrutiny of conspiracies, witnessing the unsettling reversal in the tides of belief. For over 5 decades, the haunting specter of November 22, 1963, continues to cast its enduring shadow upon the world, leaving an indelible mark. Presidents from Barack Obama to Donald Trump and George W. Bush pledged to unveil the concealed secrets surrounding John F. Kennedy's assassination. Yet even now, some of those classified documents remain locked under case. And the case evolved since the last scrutiny in 1978, locked away by the elusive establishment. Now, despite the passage of time, has our understanding of the intermittently government releases and select papers and recent disclosure a few years ago promised a wealth of new revelations? However, a shroud of deception cloaked the truth, as media narratives downplayed the significance, suggesting mere elaboration on existing knowledge. Yet beneath the surface, there were meeting minutes and recorded speeches from the immediate aftermath which underscored a stark reality. Knowledge that minutes after the assassination, we knew there were multiple gunmen. While more documents may emerge, the enigmatic intelligent apparatus over half a century later remains adept at concealing its role. The possibility of redactions, perpetual secrecy, or selective information dissemination looms large. The claim of having disclosed all pertinent documents may echo, but the clandestine corridors of shadowy agencies often defy transparency, giving rise to the classic conspiracy suspicions. The elusive quest for the complete truth of that sunlit winter day in November 1963 persists, perpetuating a maelstrom of conspiracies. The exploration of a potential second shooter establishes complicity, and a presidential coup reverberates through the corridors of speculation. Lee Harvey Oswald, despite remaining the prime suspect and the officially designated assassin, shares the stage with insinuation proposed in the second investigation of a potential second assailant. Will the elusive truth behind the assassination and the identity of this supposed second shooter ever surface? Or is this destined to be an eternal enigma, the paragon of conspiratorial mysteries? Only the relentless march of time holds the key to unraveling the obscured layers of history. He's the greatest president we ever had, personally speaking. You want to know why? Because they didn't even let him finish one term. And that, my friend, is a testament to his greatness. After Kennedy's demise, some viewed it as a death knell for the aspirations of a more liberal society. And people, perhaps through rose-tinted glasses, fantasized about a utopia under Kennedy's reign. A world painted with rainbows and marvels. I'm not saying it would have been all sunshine and rainbows, but we did take a step back into a more authoritarian and a warlike era. Johnson, and later Nixon, entered the scene, ushering in a prolonged war in Vietnam, allowing war profiteers to pull the strings and giving the establishment a free hand to do as they pleased. Now, I suspect things might have been different had Kennedy survived. Sure, somewhere down the line someone might have tried to rein him in, but certain powerful factions, which some dub the New World Order or the Illuminati, would probably have had less sway. And if we entertain the notion that intelligence services played a role in Kennedy's assassination, we're essentially talking about a coup d'etat. Now, accusations involving Johnson's involvement further solidify this claim. The issue here, and the ominous implications for the future, is that if such an event altered history, it's likely they've attempted similar maneuvers, albeit more discreetly. Now, conspiracy theories abound, from 9/11 to various global events, suggesting that these machinations occur more frequently than we acknowledge. The world dismisses them as mere mad conspiracy theories, but the evidence points to at least some complicity from intelligence services in Kennedy's killing. Now, this implies we've been under their influence ever since, until someone emerges willing to shake up this entrenched world. We'll likely remain in their clutches for a considerable while longer. Now, if you've been intrigued by this episode, if you'd like to see more, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you don't miss any more of our journeys into the shadows. As always, I'm your host, Doug Duncan, with a reminder that once you enter the dark, you may never be the same.